watching animations, and it's hard to abstain from giving our opinions, though we're not classically trained. But we're gonna do it anyway, so just prepare your brain. Buckle up, cause it's the smear campaign.
Blousey, bouncy, bouncy, blue. Booty cancer, boofty boo. Bobbly ba, zobbly ba.
We could go all night with this shit, dude.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's Smear Campaign, blurring the lines between reality and animation. Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Esperanza.
We make a podcast about cartoons.
Yes, we do.
Theoretically. And this week we're talking about the Triplets of Belleville.
And it's an interesting film, to say the least.
Usually you say it's a classic.
It's a classic. However, I don't know.
It's interesting.
It is.
It certainly is. This was your first time seeing the movie.
Yeah, 100%.
I've seen it a couple of times. I watched a little bit of it just before we started, just to get like a vibe for it. But we watched it tonight, this very day. And what did you think?
That was crazy. I think it was really well animated. It was obvious that there was like a lot of passion put into the project and everything. Really random story, but very cool. Callback to everything. It's not really a comedy. I mean, sometimes you expect animated movies to be comedies, but this is not a comedy.
Yeah, it does get very funny in certain moments, but
not like, I don't know if it's supposed to be as funny as we found it.
I don't know. I think there's definitely some intentional comedic moments. It's very deadpan.
Yeah. A
lot of the comedy, but it is. So this is a French film. For those of you keeping track at home, we've mostly been talking about sort of standard, like, American-made, kind of big blockbuster animated features.
Americans.
Ugh, filthy, just enormous creatures, according to this movie.
Classic.
But besides Spirited Away, this is our first non-kind of American Hollywood film, and it's very different from most things that you come to expect from animated movies. I love this movie. It's wild and beautiful and intensely unsettling at times.
It's super intentional.
Yeah. It's clear that even if there's not an explicit story being told, there's a really clear vision and a voice that is persisting through everything. And like you said, there's clearly so much passion put into making the visuals just striking and intense and meaningful. But yeah, I like the movie a lot.
So for our viewers at home who've never heard of this movie or seen this movie,
yeah, how does this story go?
Gosh. So we open up on this mom and the son watching a little movie together.
Yeah, the opening sequence is very much meant to elicit the tone of classic vaudeville, but more specifically the animation of like the 20s and 30s when animation was first kind of coming into form. The characters, it's a very kind of like a Fleischer studio kind of production, like a Betty Boop or Popeye, like that studio, I think, was specifically some kind of inspiration for the style, because this part is very stylistically different from the rest of the movie, and it's this kind of flashback sequence to the Triplets of Belleville, the titular triplets, performing on stage in this big exciting club. We get our first shot of seeing some of the extremely overweight characters in the movie.
Just coming right out of the cars.
Yeah, there's this weird little like gag where every limo that drives up has one enormous woman and one tiny man that's like being dragged along by his heels.
Off topic, but that opening scene I feel is like a very direct reference to Singing in the Rain's opening.
Oh, yeah? Yeah,
that's like exactly how that movie opens. Outside of like this fancy movie spot where, you know, people are cheering outside, and then like all these couples show up, and you know, the love-struck actors and stuff. It's just very fun. It's very like exactly the same thing. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
You've got a much better like experience with classic cinema besides like outside of animation, like more live action movies. Yeah, real movies, not these dumb kiddie cartoons. But you've got a much more like robust understanding of that stuff. So there's probably plenty of references I did not get. And then they cut inside and they show all the people cheering as the triplets come out, and they show a few other acts. So this is one of the main things that is
the movie's criticized for this stuff, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a general criticism for this choice because the movie features some like cameos of notable figures in entertainment from like those early days of film.
Real people.
Yeah. They have Django Reinhardt, or Jean Reinhardt, who is this Romani French guitar player who is like noted as like one of the most influential jazz performers in Europe. There's Fred Astaire, who you understood that he's like one of the most famous dancers of like cinema, I guess.
Yeah, American. He's an American dancer.
While we were looking up the fun facts for this movie, I asked you, do you know who Fred Astaire is? And you're like, what?
I was shocked, honestly. I don't know, I guess it never comes up. I just assumed that everyone knows who Fred Astaire is.
I have no clue. That's why I asked. But he shows up and he does this crazy tap dance, and his shoes come alive, and in a very like Fleischer fashion, the shoes like turn into monsters and eat him. And like, there's no happy ending. It's just like, here's what we can do with the power of animation. And
fun fact: some people were actually like, very upset by that.
I can imagine if you're big fans.
The shoes win over Fred Astaire.
It's pretty disrespectful. But not quite as disrespectful necessarily as
the next act. Yeah.
As Josephine Baker, who was, we both found out, is this very pivotal, influential black actress. She was the first, I think she was the first black actress in a film.
In France, I think.
In France or in general, I think, because a lot of film actors at the time weren't, like, if they had a black character, they would do blackface.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but she was extremely influential both in cinema and in the civil rights movement. She was offered an opportunity to like take a leadership position after Martin Luther King died, apparently. Oh, wow. And she turned it down for concern for her family. But yeah, she was like a big name. And she appears as a woman, topless with a skirt of bananas. And when she comes out on stage, all the dinky little men in the audience they like transform into apes and rush her and like take all the bananas off. It's one of those things where looking at it's like, oh
hashtag
no.
Very uncool.
Oh,
very
no.
uncool stuff.
Apparently the outfit is based on one of her earliest roles. She in her early dancing career, she would specifically dress like that. So it was meant to be a very direct reference to her performance. And I guess my interpretation of the way they kind of concluded her sequence, which was also, disrespectful to the memory of her influence, was more meant to comment on the sort of savageness of the men objectifying her. But I could definitely see people not being okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, movie was made in 2003, by the way.
It was.
So it's not like this happened like a long time ago.
Yeah. And there's, I think, more of a disconnect in terms of like racial tension in Europe. At least they don't have the same understanding necessarily of the what to or to not show.
Yeah, but it's worth mentioning. This movie won, what was it, Best Song, Best Animated Feature in Academy Awards in America. I don't know. It's they went ahead with it and said they liked it, so
the Academy approves.
The Academy likes this one.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth acknowledging that like they did choose to do that. They didn't need to.
There's no need for it.
Yeah, I could think like there's some potential explanations or interpretations that could give the film more credit for that, but it is just sort of a bit of an awkward thing to watch.
Anyway, what's the rest of the movie, Sam? Because that's not even really main plot.
This is just the main opening sequence.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to, not modern day, but later on. The art style changes dramatically. The art, this was a film directed by Sylvain Chomet, who's this fairly prestigious, pretty prestigious French animation director. He's done some live action stuff.
The Illusionist, right?
The Illusionist was another animated feature that he did, which is also very good. Another kind of mostly silent movie that's, I think, just about like a bunch of performers all kind of dealing with obscurity. But he has this short film based on pigeons that is very, the Triplets of Belleville is, I think, his most accomplished work, or like the most celebrated piece that he's done. And his art style that he uses in that the studio that produce the movie, what they employ, it's this very, very cartoonishly exaggerated caricature style that also like takes into account a lot of 3D space. There's a lot of shots of characters right up in front of the camera, and you can like see the way their faces like curve around, very angular, very distinct shapes.
The skylines and everything, how they round up and stuff.
Yeah, they have a lot of fun with perspective on, like, sweeping shots of like, when they get to Belleville, and there's this big, like, tracking shot with all these different layers of city, like, moving to show just how huge the space is. But yeah, the character designs are very, by comparison to most traditional, like, American animated movies,
they're crazy.
They're wild. They're intense. And all the characters are very, like, I think there's a specific description. They're all kind of broken in their own way.
Oh, yeah. They have their unique peculiarities.
Yeah, and the main character, Madame Sousa, who is this old grandma who... The opening sequence goes into Madame Sousa and her grandson, Champion, watching the whole scene on TV. And she, like, for instance, is, like, 3 feet tall, and she's got a club foot. So she's got, like, 1 foot that goes all the way down, 1 foot that's way up high, so she's got a big elevator shoe that she uses to get around. And so she moves in a very specific way. And she's always adjusting her glasses and her eyes always kind of lazing over. And,
she's always fixing it.
Yeah. There's so many very specific movements that all the characters have that really set them apart and give them a lot of personality, even though they don't say anything. You know, we don't see how they're feeling necessarily. We just kind of see them interact with each other.
Yeah, so her grandson's very sad and she can't make him happy.
Yeah.
She finds out, like, over a period of time that the only thing that will make him happy is, like, a bicycle.
Yeah, he's obsessed with bikes.
So he just likes to ride his bicycle, and so she gets him a bicycle and trains him, just winning the Tour de France, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like because there's a bit of a time jump then, again, where after she gets him this bicycle as a tubby little boy, they cut to years later, and he's this extremely gaunt, like,
super muscular.
Yeah, huge legs, tiny body. And she's just sort of, like, coaching. Basically, it feels like their entire life is built around making him an ideal bicyclist. And they really go into very explicit detail showing this weird little process where they'll bike all day and then get home, his legs are ruined, so she'll, like, go over them with an egg beater.
Yeah, massage them out and everything.
Yeah, and uses, like, a little vacuum cleaner to suck up the muscle. It's weird. It's very...
Yeah, and she uses, like, a little lawnmower thing to crack his back and stuff. It's so weird.
And all the little sound effects to make you really feel like, oh, she's really crunching on him.
It's kind of unnerving stuff.
Yeah. And, like, she uses a tuning fork so she can properly adjust the bicycle spokes, and then they set up they've got another bike that's just, like, hooked up in the kitchen to a record player so he can listen to accordion music while he drifts himself to sleep.
Goals.
It's like everything in his life is just biking, and she's there for them every step of the way. Meanwhile, their dog is grown into this huge, fat, pudgy little thing.
Monstrosity, dude. He just doesn't like trains, man.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
That's his whole thing. There's a point early in the movie where, like, after he first gets the dog, a little toy train runs over his tail. Just like, ooh, a little foreshadowing.
He doesn't like trains anymore.
Yeah. It's like, there's no real payoff to it. It's just like, this is just
sparks
sort of
at trains.
Yeah, I guess there is payoff to it because trains continue to come up throughout the movie, but it's just this weird thing that they keep reusing to kind of highlight, this is who Bruno is, Bruno the dog.
Yeah, and we get to see all of his dreams and everything too. We don't know how anyone else is really feeling, but we can see all the dog's emotions basically. And we really follow through the movie with the dog, and he has, like, these crazy nightmares and stuff.
We get a lot of just Bruno's beady little eyes darting back and forth with his sad eyebrows. It's so expressive, and the way that he, like, clatters and slides on the kitchen floor and falls down the stairs. Very, like, this sort of thing that, again, like, usually in a movie, like an animated movie that has a dog, the dog's, like, cute.
Yeah, right. This dog he's not cute. That's not a cute dog.
It's a nasty old dog.
Not pleasing to the eye, I would say. But anyway.
Yeah.
So they enter the sun into the race, into the Tour de France, right? So, and they kind of get hijacked by some mafia gang, and the boy gets kidnapped along with 2 other random cyclists.
Yeah, like, as they're bowing out of the race, there's a car that's supposed to be
a medic van.
Yeah, it's like following them around, so if they have to stop in the middle of the wasteland, like, they'll get picked up and brought to wherever they need to go. Madame Sousa and the driver, their van gets hijacked, and they get, like, a blown tire, and a duplicate of their van follows after instead. That's being run by these 2 mafia guys who are just big old squares.
They're squares, dude. Straight up.
Yeah, it's another example of just the wild character design is the mafia goons literally, like, form together to create a wall of black suit with just two heads poking out of it and
that's great.
Little legs at the bottom. Yeah, it's really stylish and really... It's especially fun to see them when they shoot it from different angles and they just show, like, here's this hexagon man, like, making his way down the stairs.
That's great.
They kidnap Champion and the other cyclists and they take him on a boat and they go off to America?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's...
It never really says specifically.
They cross the ocean from France to a place with a Statue of Liberty that is very fat.
Very fat Statue of Liberty. We love to see it.
And the whole way, little Miss Sousa is following them on her little paddle boat that she rents from a place.
Great.
She goes up to the guy and he says, "Oh, well, for one coin, it's only going to be 20 minutes." And she nods and...
1 franc.
Yeah, 1 franc. I don't know.
I got you.
Yeah. I just know they deal in dead rats in France.
That's all I know. No one tells me different.
No one will tell me any different.
So yeah, America.
Yeah.
The promised land.
They get to America. They get to Belleville, which is like kind of New York. Maybe kind of just a general city. But she doesn't have a lot of luck finding much of a lead.
Yeah, so they're just sad.
Yeah, she's having a hard time. She's sitting on the side of the road and she just starts tapping a little melody on her bike wheel. Then out of the shadows come these enormous, like, hulking...
Yeah,
like,
just little people.
Yeah.
Half circles.
What's that?
Half circles. Just...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. They're just shaped interestingly.
Yeah, just, like, ghastly, skeletal old women. And they come out, and they just start singing. And it's like, oh, it's the Triplets from the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're these very old ladies, extremely vascular.
Very old.
Yeah. You can see every bone in their wrists and knuckles, and... They just want to sing a song, and they sing a song with Sousa, and then invite her back to their place, where they have a nice deep meal of frogs.
Frogs, they just be killing frogs.
Yeah, and then they have more frogs, and then they eat like frozen tadpoles, and
they have frog popsicles as well.
Yeah.
As a treat.
And there's like a weird scene where it's like, where do they get the frogs? They don't seem to make money, I guess, but one of them just brings a little stool out to the side of the creek and throws throws a little pipe bomb in there.
Crazy.
Blows up frogs. It's such a fun, like, I think one of the things this movie does so well is just like show the normalcy of these people's like weird lives. Like they're so used to the way things are, and like you see that with the grandma and son when they're like dealing with his like post bike training like so resuscitation.
The routine that they have is just...
And it's like, it's bizarre, but it's so, like, they treat it as so, like, standard that it really gives you a good idea of, like, this is what their lives are.
Yeah, and it's very, they never run into any other characters, so it's very, like, judgment-free. I don't know, we don't know how anyone else, like, feels about it. But we're also not wondering, you know, because we don't really care. All we care about is, like, how we're feeling about what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. And, like, it's the same thing when they get to the Triplets' place, and, like, they do things a very specific way. And Madame Sousa tries to, like, help him with cleaning the fridge and stuff, and they keep telling her, like, no.
Nothing's allowed in the fridge.
Yeah.
She can't read the newspaper.
You can't use the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
She's just trying to help, but it doesn't make any sense. And we were trying to figure out, because it's been a while since I've seen the full movie, but we were trying to figure out, like, why don't they let her do anything? And I was guessing, like, maybe they're, like, try to keep things a certain way to remind them of the past. Maybe they're... Because that's kind of like a movie thing is, these old stars are just fond of the past and they want to relive the glory days so they can't move on. Yeah. It's like, that's a very kind of movie character, but I kind of forgot that that's not really what this movie's all about.
That's not what happens here. It's so fun. Yeah,
it turns out they just use those like household appliances as their instruments in their shows that they continue to do to like maybe less bombastic crowds, but... They're still just doing what they love.
They're using, like, the fridge as, like, a piano. So she, like, hits the fridge wires and fridge shelves, and that's, like, the piano keys. And then there's, like, the newspaper crumpling. Yeah. That's an instrument. And the vacuum as well. Yeah, they have this weird little, like, whistling sound when she covers the vacuum with her palm. And it's, like, it's fun music. But you know what's the fun part is that all those, it's, like, the real... That's actually what it is, making the sound.
Oh, yeah. They like,
didn't
really
use any
that.
alternative instruments to make the sounds that they say they're making. So, like, the guy, he actually used his fridge. Chomet, like, his home fridge made those noises. And they just recorded them, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a wild thing to do.
Because usually they cop out, you know, the trash can is like the lion's roar. Know what I mean?
Stupid D. Bradley Baker making every sound effect.
Dumb Disney.
Stupid Disney.
Take notes.
Get a real lion.
Exactly.
Or replace the lion with a newspaper.
Exactly.
I guess the scopes of those projects are a little different.
But anyway, I thought that was fun.
And then Sousa comes in with her little, makeshift drum, or, marimba that she made out of the bike wheel. It's so fun.
Yeah, they just lay down a sick beat.
I think that's the biggest strength of the movie is that they just create these weird little scenes that are so fun to watch. And, watching the process of how the characters do
Come
stuff.
together, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. And then the mafia boss just happens to be at the restaurant where they're performing, and the dog discovers some little piece of Champion's clothing and brings it to Sousa, and then they find where the boy has been kidnapped to and taken away, where he's tied down.
Yeah, they do some reconnaissance and they find out that there's this little mole man who does all the repairs. Because this whole time the mafia guys, they kidnapped these bikers, and it's what are they gonna do?
Cyclists.
Of course. Sorry. Of course.
I need to correct you on this.
I should be more respectful to cyclists.
It's a French movie, Sam.
Of course, you need to appreciate the art form.
That's all they care about.
But this whole time, again, because I haven't seen it in a while, I was what is his plan? And he's got this wine factory, and he's the little, red-nosed mafia boss just looks miserable all the time. It's what is he trying to do?
Sad and he's drunk.
And they set up this weird little device where the cyclists will ride on this little device while a film of going through the French countryside plays in front of them, so it looks like they're actually biking on the on the Tour de France. And and there's something about injecting them with wine.
Yeah.
I don't know what that connected to.
Yeah, I don't know if it was supposed to be just to keep them awake, or I don't know what it was specifically, but he injected the wine.
Maybe to pacify him or something?
Directly into their veins.
It was a weird visual.
So they wouldn't argue, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, they weren't putting up much of a fight the whole time. The champion and the other two bicyclists basically just go along with whatever, because what are they going to do? They've been captured by the mafia.
It's kind of weird. And Champion's always kind of just chilling, taking it with a straight face.
Yeah, he doesn't ask. He doesn't push back a lot. Pretty much is just yep, I'll go biking.
Whatever. And the other two guys are always panting, and their mouths are always wide open. They look like they're dead.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
They look like corpses already. And they always, whenever they cut to shots of them, they always have subtle horse sounds in the background to kind of bring home the idea that these people are being treated like livestock.
Yeah, it's really odd. I love that.
Gotta love it. Yeah. She manages to get some information from the little mouse man while he's getting a shave. It's very adorable.
He's very small and he acts like a mouse.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
That's his whole thing.
There's no other human hybrids except for the guy on the train.
Wait a second, a mouse man in a French movie?
Dude, he's the enemy.
He's the Ratatouille. The Ratatouille the whole time.
Disgusting.
They get everything they need so they can infiltrate the mafia headquarters. And then you see what it's really all about is they just made this weird artificial version of the Tour de France so that other mafia guys can bet on the winners.
Yeah.
While
while watching the race in real time.
Yeah, while watching these guys just cycle in place. And there's a little counter that shows how far each of them have gone, and one of them falls off because he's exhausted. Then they shoot him.
He just dies. He's dead.
Yeah.
It's great.
There's this really unnerving, scorekeeper.
Bookie,
yeah, Bookie. And he just pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head.
In front of everyone, no one really gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's good. It's quality.
It's intense.
You know what I mean?
It seems like it might be saying something, some kind of weird commentary on something.
Could never be.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sam.
There's some really heavy-handed messaging, I guess. I don't even know if it's messaging, just weird allegories that they use. Instead of Hollywood, there's a sign that says Holly Food, and pictures of the mouse man next to Mickey Mouse. All the Americans are just massive.
Yeah.
Spilling out of their clothes. Every time you see a wide shot of an American street, you just see there's at least one lumbering pile of flesh walking down the road.
Yeah, with just a shirt that says I love big.
Yeah.
Just anything that gets, that really gets the point across.
Yeah.
These people, they are fucking fat. They are fat folks. And it's just insane.
Yeah. And I think Sylvain Chomet mentioned the whole idea is like the people of Belleville are just meant to be full consumerists in every way. And the main way he showed that was by showing how big and fat and dumb they were.
Yeah, and it's supposed to just like represent how much extra money they have, I guess.
Yeah, and just like constantly consuming and like what that does to a person.
He really showed it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of imagery to prove that point.
Yeah.
It's great.
And you know, like a lot of the imagery is very striking. Like when they cut forward from their house, when Champion's all grown up, and they show like the neighboring towns like slowly encroaching, and then it cuts to a shot where their entire house has been like
pushed to the side by a bridge. Yeah. Yeah,
they just have like a train track awkwardly just like rammed up against their house so that their whole place is like leaning over.
Yeah, it's so odd.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of such a thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to explore like what the world is and what their situation is. So, to wrap up the story, the triplets and Sousa all make their way to the place and hijack the whole event. And Sousa like jerry rigs the cycling device so that it'll actually start moving, and they blast their way out of the side of the like building and do this very slow car chase with all these mafia vehicles.
And some of the most fragile cars I've ever fucking seen in my life.
It takes so little for these mafia men to be driven off the road by by three old ladies.
It's hilarious. Oh yeah, there's the part where the hill is just too high for the car to go up.
Yeah.
The cyclists are going up it with absolutely no issue, but the car just cannot make it.
Which is kind of like, you know, that's tying back to just the scenes early in the movie where we see just how high up the hill the Champion's able to bike.
Yeah.
And just like the sheer determination of these cyclists.
The car just cannot make it.
Yeah,
it just flips over backwards down.
All their cars are like super long, like these sleek black like mafia cars, and they just crumple like paper.
Built like matchboxes. Happens to the best of us. So that's a crazy chase. And then
I think that's the stuff where I think it's supposed to be funny at that point.
No, that is when the car just keeps rolling down the hill like one side after the other. It just starts. That is. I was laughing so hard. Yeah. I was like, "What in the world?"
Just the timing on it all, and that's the thing. Like, I think the timing is so specific.
That was like one of the things he always would say.
Yeah.
Like, timing is what it is. Some people don't like the dialogue-heavy movies. And he was proving the animation's just, like, all about timing.
Yeah. It's like, you can do so much with just how much you can do in, like, just a few frames of, like, how far a character's able to go. Your favorite character was the waiter.
Oh, he's so funny. The whole character's just, like, all the time bent over sideways. You know, just close to the floor.
Yeah.
And when one of the customers accidentally has like some sort of kerfuffle, he starts bowing down to them.
He drops to his knees. He's just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
It's so funny. Like, what a character. And it's like, you know, each of the animators had their own character.
Yeah.
They could really just like pour their whole heart and soul into them. So that guy, whoever animated that waiter really went for it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
There's a fun fact, because by this time, 2000s, CG was starting to take over animated movies, and it's less of a thing in foreign countries. Like, America was kind of the one that really hopped on that. You'll still see more 2D stuff coming out of, like, Europe and Japan and things like that. But Sylvain Chomet, when he was asked, like, about the use of 3D in animation, he said, like, he does use it for things that are, like, vehicles and bikes, because those aren't fun to draw.
Yeah, all the traffic jams and stuff.
Like, there's no character to just a standard car that has to, like, slowly move, and you have to, like, show the perspective changing it. It's, like, it's so mechanical and so there's no character to it that it's kind of a waste of time to put all that effort into, like...
just a car.
Yeah.
It's not a flex to do it either.
Yeah, and so there is a decent amount of 3D, like, in the movie to kind of, like, elevate, to, like, fit into it.
Well, yeah, the explosions and everything, right?
Yeah, there's, like, certain effects. When she's chasing the boat and there's, like, the crazy maelstrom of storms going on.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely CG.
Yeah, and I could notice, like, the first time I watched it, I didn't really notice it at all, but watching it now, I was like, okay, I can kind of see that.
The bikes and everything.
Yeah, the bikes, and I think even some of the bikers are, in certain shots, like, showing them, like, rounding corners and, like, aerial shots of all the bikers. It said
the whole Tour de France was, like, CG.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Just because, like, it's just...
Yeah, it's just boring.
That would be a nightmare for the people who have to work on it. And then, it's not going to look all that different.
Shows you he was really thinking about, the people who were animating rather than just like, I want this finished work and it all has to be this certain way.
Yeah, it felt like it was very intentional with like, the reason you would want to draw something is because you can give it all that personality.
Yeah. If you can't, there's no point. Which is smart. He was big brain.
He's a smart cookie.
Smart cookie.
That Chomet. So after the car chase, the movie pretty much ends. There's one final confrontation where the original mafia guys show up to try and like take him down, and Madame Sousa's had enough. She furrows her eyebrows and like stands in front of the road, and then uses her club foot to trip the car off the side of the bridge.
And they just get blown up in the funnel of a boat. It's insane.
Yeah, for a movie that's like so focused on these little like character interactions, when they go big, they go so big.
Yeah, crazy things happen. The bad guys just die. All of them just die in car crashes. That's like their thing.
That's their whole idea.
That's the character trait. They're big, they're evil, and they die. And that's kind of just their thing,
Yeah.
So that's great. And the movie ends and they drive off into the
country, and then you have like a reincorporation of the first line where she says, "Is the movie over? Is the movie over?" And then Champion, who's now an old man in that same house, just sort of looks off into the distance and says, "It's over, Grandma." And then the movie's over.
It's crazy, the callback, and the ending was like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
They really went for it, huh? And there's even all these other layers, like, whatever the dog's going through, and then also his relationship with his parents, who are only pictured like in a photo on his wall. But the grandma like looks at that photo very often.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like there's like so many layers and different things that are happening.
It's clear like the people making the movie have a good understanding of the characters beyond their purpose in the film.
Yeah.
Like they're not just there to be like jokes. They're there to exist and live in their own like fictional way.
Yeah, and we don't have to know everything about them, and they're definitely not like just one face. It's like multifaceted, if you will, Sam.
It's like multifaceted.
Multifaceted.
So many faces.
Not even one face. Many faces. This is no Ratatouille.
How is it? What?
It's no Ratatouille, Sam.
That's true. Would you like to elaborate?
That's all I got.
Okay, that's fair.
I think you can parse it together.
You can surmise my thoughts on this movie by just this sentence. This is no Ratatouille.
It's no Ratatouille. And you were asking about, like, the art style, if it was inspired by a particular person.
Oh, did you have a fun fact for that?
I did, because apparently, before this movie was made, Chomet used to do work with this famous French cartoonist named Nicolas de Crécy. And they worked together for a number of years on like different comics, and then some people say that like the style and like the the atmosphere of the movie were like, some people say that it's like directly inspired by this cartoonist, but some people say that it's like plagiarized. So yeah, I don't know. I looked up some of the stuff and it's like definitely very similar, and like a lot of his work like inspired the film. The art, like the way the characters were portrayed and stuff. Obviously, Chomet took this like the style and stuff and really brought it to life with his own ideology about animation that he learned in Great Britain or something.
Yeah, it's hard to copyright a style.
Yeah, right.
If the characters were like, clearly this guy had comics with these specific characters.
No, none of that. Just the style itself.
Yeah, that's like all artists. They don't come out of the ether with like, I've got a brand new way of doing things.
Yeah, right. I think it works.
I think it works great. Besides making a few films and things, Sylvain Chomet also guest animated an intro for The Simpsons once.
Oh, yeah?
And it's very much like this, like taking the simple Simpsons characters and reimagining them as these very fleshed out, like detailed, gross looking Chomet characters.
Cool.
And I remember there's just like a part of it where there's like this snail slowly crawling in the foreground, and Homer like walks up to it and you see his face all close, and he grabs it and throws it in his mouth.
He eats it?
Yeah. And I just remember there's like you can find that on YouTube, and just all the comments are like, "This is disgusting." This is gross. Yeah, like, these are disgusting. People are like, are these like supposed to be French stereotypes? Well, the guy's French. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's just, that's not really the audience it was being made for, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's like telling that that's one of those things where, and it's not like nobody liked it, but I think it's telling when like you introduce something like that to people who are more used to like, what's the hot show on TV?
Yeah.
And they watch that and they're like, what?
Yeah.
This isn't what I wanted.
They're like looking for a stereotype because that's honestly what they're given in that show.
I mean...
Not only, but...
Yeah. But like, there's reason to think that like, are these French because like, it's weird. It's a weird little opening.
That's crazy. So weird.
So we just watched the Sylvain Chomet Simpsons couch gag.
Crazy.
It's funny and it's weird. And a lot of people who watched it, that was the Frenchiest thing I've ever seen. Am I the only one who found it a bit creepy? But yeah.
Why Homer's so thick?
Why Homer's so thick? How the characters get so thick?
What a great question to ask. Thank you.
We're back to the important questions. But yeah.
So what do folks think about this film? So?
Yeah, I got some classic reviews. As it's another non-American film, we're gonna see if you like, what was this movie supposed to be? Like, it's hard to watch this.
I mean, I would say the common theme between all the movies we've seen so far is that, like, American crowds kind of liked them.
Yeah.
You know, or someone in America really pushed the movie to American crowds as well. Like, Spirited Away was taken over by, like, John Lasseter.
Oh, yeah.
Disney, you know, and, like, voiced over and everything. And made into, like, this American film. And then this movie, too, like, was pushed by American.
Yeah, overall, it was very well received. Like, it's got, like, 90%. Besides critics, like, audience review scores, like, pretty high for the movie. But I did find a few just fun, like, people who don't quite enjoy it as much. So, first review is from Alaya W. Gave it 1 star. A mindfuck adult cartoon with truly repulsive character designs.
This movie was only PG-13. It's worth noting.
That's true. And that was only because of the opening shot.
With their boobs.
Yeah.
Annie S. gives it 0.5 star. Not for children. First 3 minutes of the Triplets of Belleville are loaded with sizeism and racism. An erotic dancer who was supposed to be Josephine Baker is shown topless, dancing in nothing but a banana skirt. Suddenly, the men in the audience turn into monkeys and attack her, removing all the bananas. If that is not shocking enough, this movie was made in 2003. But of course, you will find many apologists for trashy, thoughtless art masquerading as edgy, avant-garde, etc. Google artist shit.
Artist shit.
Sadly, what is really edgy and avant-garde are films that treat people of color, people of all sizes, and people of all genders, and sexual orientations as, well, people.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we were talking about at the beginning.
And that's an entirely fair interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone needs to give, like, a benefit of the doubt if, like, it's a pretty kind of tasteless depiction of a very influential black woman.
And usually when we watch movies and I see that something is, like, problematic, it's something that is sometimes forgivable just for being in the period of time that it was in. But I don't think that this is worth, you know, saying something like that, because I don't think it's true, honestly. If
I did have to be an apologist for trashy, thoughtless art masquerading as edgy, avant-garde, etc., I think they were trying to capture the sort of... The vibe I got was trying to capture a sort of, like, vicious disregard for performers in that, like, opening sequence. Like, the Triplets of Belleville see all this stuff happening and they don't care. They're just, like, singing along. They're playing along with the show. Mm-hmm. And all the audience members, like, don't care when any of the actors are, like...
eaten alive?
Yeah, attacked or eaten or stripped or whatever else. Like, I do think it's intentional. I don't think it's just, like, edgy for the sake of being edgy or anything. But it is, like, you kind of have to assume, like, good intentions, which you're not really... like, a standard audience isn't really obligated to do that.
Yeah. It's an interesting subject.
Yeah.
I guess. But it is... Well, it was 2003, man. That's, like,
it was
pretty
2003.
recent, man.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely,
pretty
like...
recent.
Yeah. I'd say, like, if you don't think there's, like, a good reason for it, then it's definitely not something you would want to have.
Yeah, it's definitely something the movie could have done without.
Yeah.
But it also has nothing to do with, like, the main plot of the movie.
Yeah.
It's totally unrelated.
Yeah. And I guess, like, even if it is something they had a vision for, it's really only used, like, you can only really say that it's being used for an aesthetic, like, than anything else. Like, it's just feeding into this particular identity of, like, early vaudeville and animation culture.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of ways you could still capture that without...
Definitely was a choice.
Yeah, it was a choice.
Yeah.
It was a choice they chose to make.
So we agree with NES.
I think so.
But I don't think that it takes it... Well, it's not a great opening scene, but it doesn't take away from the main plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Is what I mean. So if we just were to cut out that scene, the movie would still be perfectly fine, I think.
Yeah. I think it's up to people, like, we're not going to have an answer for anything, but it's up to people's discretion how much that kind of a sequence is going to impact your appreciation for the movie.
Yeah. Took away a little of my appreciation.
That's fair. Matt C. gives it 1 star. I'll upset a lot of people, no doubt, but this may slot into my most overrated films of all time, top 5.
Wow.
Yes, it has lots of original ideas and bizarre characters. That doesn't make it any less paper-thin in content, though, does it? The general tactic seems to be to find one mildly amusing visual gag, e.g. dog barking at passing trains, and repeat the joke ad nauseum until you want to scream with annoyance. I watched this on release. I've watched it now. Never again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they think the dog barking is supposed to be funny?
I think it is supposed to be funny a little bit, but...
Yeah, but not like...
It's not...
laugh out loud funny.
Yeah. It's not like trying to make you laugh, necessarily. Like, it's not a comedy, like you mentioned at the beginning. It's just sort of...
It's kind of dark, man.
Yeah. It's a little...
It's a tough watch.
It's a fantastical slice of life.
And all the characters are going through, like, horrible things. It's not funny, you know? It's not funny, but it is, like... It's funny in the way that it's just, like, so incredibly random and odd. Yeah. And just out there, you know?
I think, like, Matt C's kind of approach to this kind of highlights a specific, like, way we interact with movies where we kind of expect them to prove themselves in a certain way. Like, if you're going to tell a joke, it better be funny. It's like, I don't know that the joke's really meant to be funny as much as just, like, contribute to the specific kind of vibe they're going for. But it, according to him, it's... most overrated films of all time, top 5.
I had never heard of this movie before. I'm going to be straight up and honest with you here. Yeah. Never had heard of it.
It's like an art house film. It's not like a universally known film. It's just like people who know about it are usually very positive about it. So it's fair to say, like, if you don't like it, you can say, oh, this is overrated. Yeah. Oh, you art snobs. Shut up.
All right. Eric S. gives this 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't understand this movie. It was good, but... Huh?
I don't get it.
All right.
What's going on?
That's okay, man. That's valid.
What's up with the frogs?
You don't have to understand it.
Yeah.
To watch it.
How did she chase the boat all the way across the ocean?
Do I smell a plot hole?
Do I smell a plot hole? How did they freeze those frogs to make icicle pops?
Turns out that plot hole that I found was not even anywhere near all the other plot holes in the movie.
Not at all the most egregious. Also, how did they use a dog as a wheel? That's not how dogs work.
Impossible.
Even one as rotund as that dog.
That poor dog.
Christopher B. gives it 2 stars. I was actually disappointed. Simple animations and a rousing 1920s retro score, which mostly took the place of any speech, filled this film with emotional appeal of a music video. A very long art house music video. Perhaps this is best watched by the under 10 crowd or the over 30 crowd, with the latter being 3 wine glasses soused.
Don't say 10-year-olds.
Under 10?
It's a PG-13 film.
Yeah.
I remind you, Christopher. Because of the boobs. You get it.
Yeah, you get it, Christopher. You saw the boobs.
You saw the boobs.
Don't pretend you looked away, Christopher.
You were looking.
Yeah, like under 10 or maybe over 30 if you're drunk.
That's
Whatever.
Crazy. The emotional appeal of a music video. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's also not a retro 90s track either, though it's like an original score.
Yeah. Well, it says like 1920s retro score, which is like...
Yeah, but it's like original music. I don't know.
Yeah, like some of it's meant to, I guess, evoke that, but it's like, I don't know.
Also like very well written music too. Yeah. Like catchy and stuff.
Oh yeah.
We remembered it.
All the song numbers are just super fun to hum along to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you might just be a little upset. Dane T gives it a 1 out of 5 stars. A bit too weird and slow for me. Also valid.
And then below it, it shows Dane T with a different anonymous profile picture.
Oh, he posted it twice.
I guess.
The same exact comment. A bit too weird and slow for me. He really wanted to comment it.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought that like it hadn't posted, so he logged into a different account.
Might have been a weird like error on the website's fault, but like he's got 2 different profile pictures. One of them's like the gray silhouette, and one of them's the white silhouette. So they're both like not profile pictures, but they're both being used to repost the same comment. Very cool. Maybe he was passionate. Maybe it's an error. Who's to say? Maybe there's another guy named Dane T out there with a very similar opinion about this movie. The same verbatim opinion, same name, same verbatim opinion, same score, different people. Also doesn't have a profile picture, just has a different generic, like like stand-in profile picture.
Just goes to show you how this movie is a bit too weird and slow.
Yeah.
And everyone's thinking that.
Everyone's thinking it. Everyone's going around the watering hole talking about how this movie's a little too slow. PJS gives it a half a star. I'm sure the French think this movie is hilarious. That's why I hate the French.
Wow, okay. That's
It's a bold stance, PJ.
Academy Awards, PJ. In America.
Yeah.
This great country loved this shit. They ate it right up.
You better hate the Academy Awards, too, and I know you're not willing to admit that.
I know you love the Academy Awards, PJ.
We all love the Academy Awards.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't love to sit down with their 3 glasses of wine and watch this movie get awarded an Academy Award?
Or under 10.
Exactly. With 3 glasses of wine.
Yeah, 3 glasses of wine juice.
That was me when I was 10.
Man, Esperanza, you lived a wild life.
Elder B, 1.5 stars. The environments were kind of uninviting, and animators didn't seem to have fun with this one, judging that by the animation. Wow. Okay.
I guess Elder's thinking that because the movie's got a lot of like sad and kind of unsettling imagery.
That means the animators were absolutely depressed while they made this.
Man, I'm having a really hard time.
Dude, if anything, I would say the animation. If you judge just the animation of this movie, I would say that the animators were having a great time.
Yeah, you have to
really
imagine.
poured their heart and soul into these characters.
It's a wild looking film, and it's all like so incredibly well done. But
just stuff you'd never seen before, perhaps.
Yeah, I feel like animators have less fun when they're working on like
standard shit.
Yeah, like having to make the muscles for actors' necks when they wear CG bodysuits in their superhero movies.
Yeah, someone just has to focus on the bulge. Someone's just not animating toes in Ratatouille.
Someone specifically being hired to not animate the toes.
They just sit there in silence and smoke cigarettes.
They got all the stuff ready for them to animate the toes, and they just gotta sit there and watch while nothing gets done.
Everyone else around them is just working like a madhouse.
It's the hardest job at Pixar, when you gotta not animate the toes.
You're tempted to animate them, and they always get someone who loves feet, you
know. They always find someone in the office, and they just bully him for 1.5 years by making him not do anything.
Haha, you like feet.
We all know it, but you can't do it.
You can't do it, can you?
They're all gonna be inside of boots. You're not gonna see any of them.
Oh man, no toes to be animated in Ratatouille.
Mvgss gives it 1.5 stars.
That really is the name.
MVKE. Ugh, I'm sick of this crap.
Valid.
Nice.
You can be whatever you want to be, Mavik.
Yeah. Whatever your name is, you can be that.
Straight up. Greg P. Ooh, Greg. You always know they have a hot take.
Those Gregs are hot as hell.
0.5 star. Bluffed into watching this by positive reviews. Best I can say is that if you are a sufferer, it's a remedy for insomnia. It's whimsical, but that doesn't mean it's good. Wow, Greg, that is a hot take. If you're a sufferer, it is a remedy for insomnia, meaning it put him to sleep.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to say it. That's great, Greg.
It's a really clumsy way to say it put me to sleep. But, I can see someone falling asleep to this kind of movie. When I was editing the Spirited Away podcast way back when, one of the things I mentioned was just like, I can't imagine people not liking this movie. For this one, I can absolutely imagine people not liking this movie. Like, this is not for everyone, and not because it's like people like can't get it or anything. It's just like, this isn't really what a lot of people want a movie to be.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, man.
Yeah, and it's very slow.
But it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, it's supposed to be slow and weird and racist.
Well. We hate that.
Russell W. gives it 2 stars. What should I have to say in order to not offend fans? Just going higher and higher. Well, the dog barking at the train is pretty funny the first 2 times I saw it, and the song is sorta catchy. That's all I can say about its good aspects. Now for the bad. It's boring, no dialogue, the square guys are dumb. Everyone is either unbelievably fat or unbelievably skinny. The beginning is so disturbing and gross that I had to turn my head after the first 2 seconds it was showing. I waited 40 seconds for it to be done. The critics loved this movie. It was nominated for Academy Awards. The list goes on. This movie is thoroughly unpleasant, strange movie that I recommend for people on a super big high because that is the only way to watch this movie. Only listen to the soundtrack. Skip this movie at all costs.
Wow, he's really protecting the American people right
Yeah,
now.
he's
a hero, dude.
He's on a mission from God.
Thanks, Russell.
Still gave it 2 stars.
That's more than most of these people have given it half a star and said worse things about it. Or better things about it.
I mean, he did like the dogs barking at the train the first couple of times.
Why is it funny? I don't understand. I found no joy or physical pleasure from the dog barking at the train.
I think the dog's just silly.
Yeah.
It's just like...
He's an interesting, funny character.
I like it just because it's like... It really goes into the weird little, like, learned psychology, the classical conditioning of this dog, where, like, he knows at what time the train's always going to come by, and he has this weird little ritual, and... I don't know. Yeah,
and his whole life gets thrown off when they go to the other city, and the trains come at even faster intervals, and he's, like, distracted. He doesn't know what to do.
And then, like, when the train's going by, and then a frog pops out of his dog bowl, and he's just barking back and forth because he doesn't know what to focus on.
He's confused, man.
I don't know. The dog's funny.
We delve into the dog's mentality a lot. But it's not supposed to be a comedy bit, I don't think.
I don't know. I think it can be. But, again, it's like, it's not a joke. It's more of just, like...
It's just what's happening, and you're just watching it happen.
It has the potential to be humorous.
Just like anything in life, I guess. Yeah.
It's just like life, man.
You know, but you don't laugh at someone falling in a puddle. Or maybe you do.
What if you do?
Depending on who you are as a person.
Depending on who falls in the puddle. How big is this puddle?
It does depend on who falls in the puddle. That's a great point, Sam.
If the president fell in the puddle, wouldn't that be funny?
Depending on when you actually post this podcast.
I mean, by now, Joe Biden's already the president-elect. But if Donald Trump fell in a puddle... That'd be pretty funny.
I don't know, dude. We only have one viewer. We don't want to upset them.
We don't have one viewer yet. We haven't posted them yet.
We have 0 viewers. But what if our one viewer is a Trump
Donald
supporter?
Trump?
Oh, Donald Trump himself. He's like, damn, I gotta stop listening because these guys want me to dead in a puddle.
I got a lot of spare time now that I'm in jail. I guess I'll listen to a podcast. Wait a second. They don't like me?
What the hell?
What are the odds of young podcasters not liking me?
Young podcasters.
Young podcasters. My greatest demographic is the podcaster.
Sarah B gives us 3 out of 5. Too weird for its own good.
Okay.
That's short and sweet review. I like that.
If only it was more normal.
Ooh, Fred.
Another long one from Fred F. Fred. Half a star. I've read that animation is the ultimate realization of imagination, and I have to agree. However, just because you imagine something to look like this does not make it interesting. Sylvain Chomet is like that kid who sits in the back of 3rd grade, scribbling bizarre pictures in his notebook just for the hell of it, while the other kids marvel at him for being so imaginative. Apparently he never grew up, nor did the people who are blown away by this film's disgusting visuals. Yes, this includes the Oscars. If by the end of the film you don't care for the protagonists, then what was the point? Actually, by the end of the film, I would have loved to have seen the mutant grandson shot dead. I have the same problem with The Lord of the Rings. Sometimes films win awards just for existing, not because they deserve it. They're all fluff and no meat. Triplets of Belleville is disgusting, pointless, and overhyped. Being French and weird does not make it good.
Lord of the Rings?
What a weird thing to bring up in the middle of them.
Oh my god. What, does he just want to see Bilbo dead? What?
If only Frodo could be shot in the back of the head by Mr. Sauron.
Sorry, I'm offended by that. I meant to say Frodo, because it's Lord of the Rings and not The Hobbit.
Well, Bilbo shows up to
They're both in there. But, you know, Frodo's the protagonist.
He gets to be a spooky goblin man for a couple seconds.
But, oh my god. That's crazy.
I just love this imagined scenario where it's like, oh, this is a guy who scribbles in his notebook, and everyone's like, ooh, that's so cool. And it's like, but they're stupid. It's like, maybe the reason everyone else thinks it's cool is because it's cool.
That's very specific. It could never be just this guy thinking that it sucks, and everyone else knowing that it's cool.
Yeah, no. It's got to be everyone else just didn't grow up.
That's crazy. The reference to The Lord of the Rings just being a film that exists.
Yeah.
And isn't actually worth
like,
anything.
You can go, like, it's free to make a review on Lord of the Rings if you want. You can just go do that.
Yeah, if you're mad about it. And obviously this scenario is very specific because this guy definitely knew someone in the 3rd grade that would sit in the back of the classroom, and he was mad because that guy was getting all the attention, and he's like, fuck artists, I hate art, fuck this movie, I hate this shit.
Fuck the act of creation by imaginative process, I hate it.
And I'm 9. I'll say it again. I'm literally 9 years old.
Fred is 9 years old. He's like, if only everyone would just grow up.
Yo, and he's actually 9 when he wrote this review too.
Maybe.
He's like, I read that animation. I hate Lord of the Rings.
The ultimate realization of imagination. Ah, to agree. I I do agree.
Classic Fred, dude. We love him.
We love Fred. We stand a Fred.
He has a hot take for sure. Alright. Audrey Ann F. 1 star. First of all, I want to be clear about this movie. It sucks! Okay, so now that it's written, and I'm sure it's clear, I hope that anyone who reads this right now understands the subtle message in this review. Don't waste your time like me! Wow. These people are really on a mission. They really don't want others to see this film.
They're afraid of what is going to happen to Americans.
It's good to have a view on things that are popular.
Yeah, it's important to have an opinion on this stuff. But not important for people to have an opinion on this movie. They shouldn't watch it at all.
Fuck this movie, dude.
Yeah.
But it is important.
Yeah. It's important to say that you don't want to watch it. Especially.
It's crazy.
And that's the last of the reviews.
Wow, people really didn't care for this. I'm sure that they're positive.
Oh, yeah. I very much cherry-picked. And it took a while to find enough negative reviews to kind of fill this out, but I very much cherry-picked, like, what are the reviews that are very negative? Because those are always kind of fun to listen to. And but I do have one last thing, is about the actual song. So, the Triplets of Belleville, I think in Europe it's just called the Belleville Rendezvous is like the name of the movie, and that's the name of the song, which I believe the person who wrote it originally like wrote at least like a draft for it for another project, and then brought it over. Yeah. But they just thought it was a perfect fit for the Triplets like signature number, and it's just like it's kind of hard to understand because you know I don't speak French,
me neither,
and I'm never planning to learn. I have no intention of bettering myself in that way. So here's the English translation. I don't want to finish my days in Timbuktu. Skin drawn by machines with nails. Me, I want to be crumpled threefold, crumpled like a Belleville triplet. I don't want to finish my life in Acapulco, dancing stiffly with gigolos. Okay. Me, I want to be twisted threefold, balanced like a Belleville triplet. Come on, girls, come on. Swinging Belleville rendezvous, marathon dancing, doom-to-doo, voodoo can-can, taboo brooms, in Belleville swinging rendezvous.
That is so random.
So some of the rhyming doesn't translate over, obviously. But pretty much every verse is basically them singing about not wanting to die in like I think like the only connection is like they're all kind of like remote holiday like destination locations.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be like, it feels like it's trying to say like I don't want to pretend that I'm not like getting older. Skin drawn by machines with nails, like the idea that they're like flattening out their skin or whatever to try and like seem younger. Like resisting this sort of broken state, which is interesting because Sylvain Chomet has like mentioned how all the characters are kind of broken in their own unique way. This song kind of celebrates that idea of being broken, or like being kind of like accepting the sort of like physical limitations of yourself, which is interesting.
Yeah, and altogether as well. Like it's not like they're going through that issue alone. Yeah,
crumple like a Belleville triplet, like just like a Belleville triplet. Like, everyone loves the Belleville triplets.
Doing it with my boys.
Yeah.
Getting old with my lads. That's cool. And there's a lot of verses, but
yeah, there's a lot. It's like a good number of verses, but they're all more or less the same, indicating like there's some fanciful life I could be living, but I don't want to be that. I don't want to like pretend that I'm not the kind of person I am, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing. I never knew what the actual translation of the song was until I looked it up today.
That's very quirky, and it is a catchy song.
Yeah.
That we sang for you at the beginning of the podcast, don't forget.
Yeah, we did do a very good job. So please leave a like.
Yeah, follow us on Spotify where we put our music out.
Yeah, we'll do that. I swear to God. Do you have any last thoughts about the movie?
That was crazy. Good watch. Interesting watch.
It's a good hang.
I don't know if I'd recommend it.
I'd say if you hear like, I wouldn't say it's an art movie, but if you hear something like art movie and you're immediately like, ugh, then you might not like this movie.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely not for everyone. And there are parts of it that are like not going to translate well, depending on how like your own kind of relationship with different issues.
But if you just like weird, quirky art,
yeah, it's worth seeing.
Stuff.
Yeah. If you're big into animation and you want something that's not just like a standard Hollywood movie, this is definitely a fun like alternative kind of option. Something you can talk about with your hipster friends, should you have any. Yeah, make like some kind of podcast about. And, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good idea actually. Someone should get on that. Someone should really take advantage of that idea. Eventually, someone will, and we will sue them. Yeah, I know you're listening. I know you're listening, Greg. Classic Greg, dude. He's always got a hot take.
Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Very nice. I like the movie a lot. I'd recommend it if you're interested in watching a movie that sounds like the movie that we just talked about.
Yeah.
If you're not, then...
Good call on that.
Yeah. If not, then totally understandable. It's definitely not like it's not something that everyone needs to see.
Yeah. It's not a classic, I wouldn't say.
No.
Because it doesn't hold up, with its content and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did at the time either. It's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
But different strokes for different folks.
Well, we watched my goofy art house French film. I think you should decide on the next movie we watch.
Oh, I have a list. Let's take a look. What will we watch? 2 options. Kubo and the Two Strings or Klaus.
I think we should watch Kubo and the Two Strings. Because that's I haven't seen that one.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's going to be the first one we do where you haven't seen the movie and I have.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm going to have a lot of power.
Yeah. Next we'll watch Singing in the Rain.
And we'll just go into live action films. We'll see some Fred Astaire.
We're blurring the line between reality and animation. That's the whole idea.
Ginger Rogers, Clark Gable.
Are they even real?
Any of these names ringing a bell here, Sam?
Yes.
Gene Kelly.
Vaguely, yes.
I'm just gonna harp on you for a bit.
That sounds cool.
Classic.
Cool. So we'll watch Kubo and the Two Strings next time. And then maybe after that we can watch Klaus for Christmas celebration.
It's a good film.
Cool.
Anyway.
Well, as they say in Belleville,
bye. What a fucking odd movie, dude.